Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my humble little converted garage. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined from the Observatory by writer, director, producer, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, one more day till I see the Odyssey, and I'm very excited.
I'm going to go see it tomorrow afternoon, downtown LA. I'm really stoked about it. And also joining us today, coming to us a little bit farther, all the way out in Austin, Texas, Mr. Sean Chandler is here. Sean, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I was realizing as I logged in, I've never talked to Robert Meyer Burnett before. We've interacted over Twitter. I've seen him on the internet, but this is the first time actually getting to talk movies with him.
You know, that was really weird because we've had you on a number of times in the past, but I guess it was never on days that Rob was here.
No.
So it's kind of fun to have this little triumvirate here. And of course, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico, is in the background, furiously working on getting stuff ready for our segments to go up later. And anyway, guys, here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we have lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is when I'm going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or a topic you'd like me to address, as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and use the super chat feature and send it in. The super chats I see are already, well, they're pretty much full, but I'll leave them open for a little while longer. So if you have a thought, theory, opinion, or topic you want me to address later, fire it on in there and we'll address it in the second part of the show. All right, guys, listen, we do have a lot of stuff to cover here today, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. And we are going to start things off today with this. You know, we were talking about some pleasant surprises at CinemaCon. You know, Whale Fall was one of them. Forgotten Island was one of them. But one of the other things that caught me completely off guard was this trailer they showed us for an upcoming Sylvester Stallone making the original Rocky movie biopic called I Play Rocky. Now, this is a project I had heard about before, and I completely dismissed it because I thought, that sounds stupid. Who cares? And then they played this trailer. And that trailer they played is now out and online. And I will tell you this, what I said back when I saw it at CinemaCon and now watching again for the first time since April, this trailer is so much better than it has any business being. Because like when it starts, you know, Rob and I were talking about this. When it starts and you've got this kid who's playing Sylvester Stallone, talking like, you know, like I thought that seems a little over exaggerated, but maybe it wasn't, whatever. But it's like, it turns me off initially. But as the trailer progresses, I'm like, this really works. Like, this works. And I'm falling in love with this character, who is a real life person, but I'm falling in love with this character. And by the time the trailer ended, and by the way, how great was the Carl Weathers little appearance in it? You said you could box. I lied. I mean, it was so good. I mean, it felt personal and warm. It felt familiar because it's the making of Rocky, yet it felt new. It felt like what Rocky is, which is this supreme underdog story. And and we all know how it turns out. There's no spoiler alerts necessary here, but I found myself absolutely salivating to watch this movie. I absolutely can't wait. You know what, guys? Somebody in our live chat before the show started, there are people, you know, we always have a bunch of people in there chatting away before the show starts. And somebody made this like offhand comment, but I think it's very true. They said, this is the theatrical film version of The Offer. If you saw the making of the Godfather series on Paramount. And I'm like, that's actually a very good comparison. Because,
well, yeah, because the actor plays, the guy who plays Al Pacino is playing Rocky. Is playing Sly.
And if you have not seen The Offer, you gotta watch The Offer.
Anthony Ippolito is his name.
It's so good, Bubby. You've got to watch it. It's so good. Anyway, I love this trailer. And of course, Rob, you were with me at CinemaCon. You already saw it. This version of the trailer, I think it's about 85% the same as the one we saw. It's a little bit different. More. But how did you feel about the trailer now watching it again a few months later?
Well, same thing. I mean, look, who doesn't love Rocky? But it really does have an interesting story about how Stallone stuck to his guns and said, I'm not going to sell this script. I'm going to play this role. He wrote it for himself. So it really does have, it's as much an underdog story as the movie that he starred in that won Best Picture. So I think that it is a really interesting story. It's a very American story, and he triumphs in the end. So I think it's going to be the feel-good movie of the rest of 2026.
Chris, you had a chance. You weren't with us at CinemaCon, so we've never talked about this. But Sean, I mean, you were not there to see this with us. So you and I've never spoken about this. You've now had a chance to watch the trailer. And I'm curious now, you are the first person I'm talking to who's now got a fresh exposure to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did it hit you? What did you think about it?
Point of reference, I got married in December of 2006, the year or month Rocky Balboa came out, that same weekend.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't allow us to go on our honeymoon until we went to go see Rocky Balboa. That's a real thing that happened with my marriage. The first thing in my marriage is, we're not going. I don't know what other people do on their honeymoon. We're going to go see the new Rocky movie. And she was totally cool with that too. That's why we're married for 20 years now. That's my love for Rocky and Stallone. And as soon as this trailer dropped, ran downstairs, grabbed my wife. We got to watch this together. And both of us are just freaking out, like our most anticipated movie of the fall. I mean, it just hits all the right nostalgia buttons, but it's also what really happened. It's like, like it's so crazy. And it feels like they're writing movie plot points, but all of this is documented that he fought so hard to write his own star-making performance. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved it. And I had a guy message me that saw it at a test screening a couple months back. And he said it was great, and the whole theater went nuts for it. And this is someone that's, you know, a younger generation that didn't grow up with Stallone, and he still said, man, it's great.
I remember like watching the trailer. I love that sequence. This is really good trailer making. The way they cut together the montages, $25,000, $50,000, $175,000, $175,000. Nope. As he's sitting there valet parking cars. It's not like the trailer is so well put together. And I don't know if the movie's going to be good or not. I've seen lots of great trailers to bad movies, but this one feels special to me. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Did you see the trailer for I Play Rocky? I think it is like way better than it has any business being. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Well, the drama surrounding the potential upcoming merger and completion of the purchase of Paramount of Warner Brothers continues to be a story. You guys remember that yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about the fact that 12 states did bring a lawsuit to block it. Yesterday, we discussed the fact that they immediately filed an injunction to prevent the merger from happening until the lawsuit is finished, which could take well over a year. And some of the repercussions and drawbacks of that. Well, there's a few other things to talk about here. One of which is the fact that there is another lawsuit that just got filed to try to stop the Paramount Warner Brothers. And this one is being brought to us by the Writers Guild. The WGA, this comes just from Deadline, is now also suing to block the Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery merger. They say this over at Deadline. The Writers Guild of America has officially entered the ring in the fight to block Paramount Skydance's pending $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. The Guild's lawsuit, filed jointly by the WGA East and West in the Northern District of California on Tuesday, seeks to stop the merger on the grounds that it violates federal antitrust law and would cause specific harm to writers. The complaint lays out how the merger would reduce opportunities for writers as well as lead to lower pay and worse conditions. Now, the Ellisons and Paramount put out what I feel is a good response, but not perfect. It said this: reach for comment by Deadline on Tuesday. A spokesperson for Paramount Skydance said in a statement, a stronger Hollywood only means something if it's stronger for the writers who power it. Remember, this is Paramount saying this. A combined Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery will have the scale and resources to reverse the current trends in our industry and expand opportunities for writers, not shrink them. More development slates, more series and film greenlights, and our continued strong commitment to working with the guild's writers across the brands. So, in a rather refreshing kind of thing, instead of somebody getting sued coming out saying, they're idiots, Paramount instead took the more diplomatic road and came out and said, listen, writers are awesome. And Hollywood only works if writers are getting their due. Absolutely, I think, a pitch perfect statement to put out. 100%. The problem is right now, guys, the Paramount legal doctrine that they seem to be purporting for both the state's lawsuit and now the WGA lawsuit. And I know some of you don't like to get caught up in the weeds, but the specific legal doctrine, as somebody who used to work in law, is called, in the Greek, trust me, bro. That's their whole kind of basis of it. It's trust me, bro. They say they're going to put out 30 theatrical films a year. They have not been able to demonstrate one thing that shows they're going to have the capacity to do that, but they keep pushing it. Trust me, bro. The WGA is saying this is going to lead to fewer opportunities, and with fewer employers, there's even more power now in the hands of the studio to screw over writers. We won't do that. Trust me, bro. Seems to be the whole thing. Now, in fairness, I don't know what else Paramount can. To be fair, I don't know what else they're supposed to say because they haven't had the opportunity to exhibit that they do have the will and the capacity to do all these things they're saying they're going to do. It doesn't look plausible, but they haven't been given a chance to do it. So there's that. But that's all now being compounded. The lawsuit from the states, the lawsuit from the WGA. There's also another thing that a lot of people have been overlooking. Now, look, this is a $110 billion deal, right? A big chunk of that was, this wasn't even allowed to go forward. Warner Brothers wouldn't consider it until Papa Ellison, Larry Ellison, head guy at Oracle, was willing to step up, because he wasn't at first, and say, I will personally underwrite this. I will personally guarantee, because Papa has a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. But even with Larry Ellison's money, this seems to be a staggering debt-heavy deal. And it gets worse when you look at this. Yahoo Finance is mentioning that Oracle is down like 28% in a month, which is where all the Ellison family jewels come from, is Oracle. As a matter of fact, in just under 2 months, Oracle has lost $360 billion in market cap. That's a lot of
4Ks, John.
That's a lot of 4K Blu-rays. In June, at one point in June, their stock price was at $244 a share, which equaled a rough $767 billion market cap value. Today, that price is at about $130 a share, which represents a 47% decline with a market cap of $405. Bottom line, in the last month and a half, getting close to 2 months, Oracle, the Ellison family business, has lost nearly $360 billion in their value. Now, couple things to keep in mind here. Stocks go up and down. Stocks go up and down. I remember a couple years ago, we were talking about, oh my God, Netflix has lost $7 billion in the last 3 months in market cap. But you know what? 6 months later, they had gotten all that back, right? They gotten all it back. I mean, sure. Stocks do go up and down. So I want to make sure when we're going to look at a graphic as shocking as that one, keep in mind, 5 weeks from now, maybe that arrow goes up. Maybe not. Maybe it does. Who's to say? The other thing you got to keep in mind here is that is not necessarily $360 billion right out of the pockets of Larry and David Ellison. They own about 44% of Oracle. And most of their value is not in cash. It's in the shares they own in Oracle. So this does represent a significant hit to their personal wealth and their personal value in the 3-digit billions kind of range. So why does that matter so much? Well, because at some point here, and I remember one of my business guys, his name's Scott, he did bring up a point like about 4 or 5 months ago when he said to me, there is a path here where it just starts costing them so much to do this deal. It may be cheaper for them to get out. Here's the thing. If Paramount pulls out, if Paramount pulls out, they, for whatever reason, doesn't matter if they just decide to get out of the deal, doesn't matter if the government or the lawsuits stop the deal, doesn't matter. If for whatever reason under the sun, Paramount has to get out of the deal, they have to pay WB, get this, a $7 billion breakup. If the deal is not closed, which we've talked about in the last few days, by September 30th, Paramount has to pay WB shareholders $650 million per quarter. We said that roughly worked out to $6-something million a day.
That's a lot of 4K discs, bro.
That's once again, that is a lot of 4K discs. Lot of 4K discs. So this is getting extremely hard. Now, again, we mentioned that yesterday. The states have now filed an injunction that I think the judge is going to rule on Friday to stop the merger until the lawsuit is done. The lawsuit will probably take well over a year, which equals 650 by 4 quarters. You're talking about what, $2.5 billion. And then if at some point they realize we got to get out, then they have to pay an additional $7 billion on top of it. Now, look, I am not sitting here telling you that the Ellisons are going to pull out of this deal. That is not what I'm telling you. What I am saying, though, is that when you combine the multiple lawsuits, the potential impending injunction, the ticking clock, $6+ million a day in penalties, and a potential $7 billion pullout fee, it could be that at some point, and now the massive decline in Oracle's value, I am not saying that they're going to get out of the deal, but what I am saying is an environment is being cultivated where the Ellisons and Paramount just straight up pulling out of the deal may become more financially viable for them to do than staying in the deal. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying the environment has been cultivated to the point that it's a legitimate possibility here. Anyway, Sean, I know you've been following this story as closely as anybody, the way this could have the potential, positively, negatively, whatever, to reshape the entertainment landscape. When you see the additional developments here, yet another lawsuit, the Oracle situation, I don't know, what's striking you right now when you look at this whole situation?
Well, first off, just as you list all of that off, I'm getting anxious as someone with no skin in the game whatsoever. Just hearing all that, like, oh, goodness, that is rough to hear all of that. That is so much money per day. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just so much working against this, of so much pushback, so many legal headaches, so many different things. It just, sometimes the idea that these companies would merge just feels like a weird fantasy to me. Like, until I see it in front of me, I can't believe that it's real. And then you list off all of the additional obstacles at the current moment, and it just affirms, like, man, is this really going to happen? Like, it seemed like it was, and it seemed like it was going to happen with Netflix. All these things seem like they're going to happen, and then they don't. And then there's just more and more obstacles that keep coming up every single day. And when you bring up $100 million or billion dollar losses, and I don't know, it just seems like such a stretch, despite the fact that it is there in front of us. There is something they're working towards, but yeah.
It's hard. Rob, look, they are clearly, I think they have demonstrated over the past year, they are very clearly committed over at Paramount Skydance to want to get Warner Brothers. I mean, they've jumped over a lot of hurdles. They've crossed a lot of bridges. They've shaken a lot of hands. They're very committed to this. But do you think, I mean, it could get to the point that the Ellisons will just have to sit back and say, you know what? We can look at ourselves in the mirror and say we gave it a great shot, but at this point, it's just mounting up too high. Or do you still foresee this going through without too much hassle? What do you think?
Well, I've got something else for you. Today, Larry Ellison and David Ellison are accused in a new lawsuit that was filed in the Delaware Chancellery by a shareholder. They are suing the Ellisons and other members of the Paramount Skydance Corporation board. This is today. This happened today, to block the $110 billion transaction. And the blockbuster deal appears to involve the promise of, get this, quote, illegal private benefits to President Trump in order to remove federal regulatory barriers, according to the court filing, which also requests money damages. These terms reportedly include the potential firing of CNN news anchors who have run afoul of the president, and the opportunity to improperly funnel cash to him by settling his legal claims against the network. The Ellisons' actions are not only harming the reputation of the news outlets they currently own, which are hemorrhaging viewers, but they are latent liabilities waiting to be triggered by a future administration, the suit says. So this suit is directly addressing what people have been worried about with this merger happening, in that the news organizations now are going to be controlled and used as political tools by the current administration. And this is brand new. Bloomberg reported this today. The filing was today. So I don't know how this is now going to affect. They're now in another lawsuit that they're going to have to deal with. And I think you just kind of nailed it. I mean, how many of these things are they going to have to fend off before they just throw in the towel? How much money are they going to lose? Is it really worth it? I mean, the funny thing about this is, where's the business of movie making and TV shows in all of this? Where is Paramount coming out with an aggressive slate of really interesting? I mean, they announced Paramount Primal, their new genre label, and they want to make a Nightmare on Elm Street series. I mean, that's not exactly groundbreaking. So I would love to see Paramount itself aggressively get into the entertainment business rather than mergers and acquisitions.
I guess that's another question that gets brought up in the finances is, now, so you got to fight the state's lawsuit. You got to fight the WGA's lawsuit. You got to fight these other impending shareholder lawsuits. How much is that going to cost them too? To do this. And again, at what point maybe David Ellison, like, look, say what you want about David Ellison. I think one thing almost everybody agrees on is he is a true dyed-in-the-wool, absolute movie fan.
100%.
He really is. And I just got to wonder if at some point, again, if you ask me, I still think 6 months from now, a year from now, this deal gets done. But if David Ellison, who it just truly does love the movies and just really does want to be in the business of making movies, I just wonder if at some point him and Papa Ellison are just going to go, look, well, again, we gave this a legit shot. Let's just forget about it. Let's walk away from the WB thing and let's get down to the business of making movies with Paramount. And maybe that happens. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about all this? For the Ellisons and Paramount's impending and wanted takeover of Warner Brothers, it seems like every day new obstacles are piling up, including obstacles of their own business values at this point. Do you think this deal goes through now still? Do you think it gets stopped? Or do you think at some point the Ellisons just go, you know what? This is starting to mount up to be too much. Maybe we just walk away. I mean, I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Water is wet. You're going to have to pay taxes, and Batman 2 gets delayed. These are truths, I say, in life. And the truths have come back to pull it out of its pants and smack us across the face once again, as it is being reported in Variety that the Batman 2 has been delayed again. all the way back now into 2028. Matt Reeves drops the first camera test footage of Robert Pattinson's return. Nobody really cares. The Variety goes on to write this. Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 is being delayed once again and will now open in theaters on February 18th, 2028. That release date is nearly 6 years after the March 2022 opening of The Batman. Just put this in perspective. Denis Villeneuve's going to have 3 Dune movies out in the time that it takes to get The Batman 2 out. The Batman. Reeves announced the new opening date on Vimeo, accompanied by the first camera test footage of Robert Pattinson's return in The Dark Knight. Now, I want to just find this one thing. Oh, yeah, here we go. The Batman Part 2 was originally supposed to open on October 7th, 2026. 3 months from now is when the movie was supposed to open, before Warner Brothers delayed it to October 1st of 2027. Moving the film to 2028 will give Reeves additional time in post-production. DC Studios co-chief James Gunn defended the first release date by explaining how it's fairly common for big-budget titles to have lengthy gaps before sequels are released. True. That is true. What is not true is that a movie that was supposed to come out in 2026 gets delayed to 2027 and then gets delayed to 2028. That part ain't normal. So here, now look, guys, in the grand scheme of things, this isn't that big of a delay. I mean, if you're going from October to February, so November, December, January, February, it's 4 months. It's a third of a year. I mean, it's not nothing. It's now coming out in 2028 when it was supposed to come out in 2026. They had already started shooting the movie. I mean, we know the movie's being shot. They put out test footage a while ago. Remember, they put out that Batmobile footage. I mean, everything's moving ahead. Everything's great. And now it's being delayed again. There is some speculation that they're moving the movie to make way for something else. But that doesn't really hold water for me, because you don't move the Batman to make way for something else. You move something else to make way for the Batman. I mean, I think that much is clear and obvious. Guys, look, I don't like to get into speculation when it comes to people's personal lives and health, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention, at some point there was talk about maybe health issues with Matt Reeves. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe something else has gone awry. But I don't think studios just randomly throw darts at the calendar and pick dates and then easily move off of them. It's a big deal to move off a release date, and they've done it several times now. I don't really have an explanation other than to purely out of my ass speculate, which, again, I don't know if it's Matt Reeves' health. I don't know if it's contractual issues. I don't know if it's the script isn't as good as the thought. I mean, I don't know. We have nothing but to sit here and speculate. Anyway, Rob, you heard this story. This Batman movie, which was supposed to come out originally in 3 months from now, moved to 2027, now moved to 2028. I don't know. Are we ever getting this movie? Is this coming, or is this going to get released on the same weekend as Todd McFarlane's Spawn movie? I mean, I don't know. When is this thing coming? When are we going to get it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, you pointed out that it's not that big of a move, and there's all different kinds of factors that could have caused this. Obviously it has a really intriguing cast. There might've been some kind of scheduling issues. There might've been something to do with just a production issue that they needed to surmount. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously dropping camera tests on social media proves that they're moving full speed ahead. And I don't think it's really anything to worry about. I mean, the first film took, if I recall, took a long time. It was delayed as well. So I don't think that there's anything to worry about necessarily. I mean, everybody wants to I hope it has nothing to do with Matt Reeves's health issues, but I wouldn't look. I look at it this way: as long as we get a movie of the caliber of the Batman, I'm all in, because that was a beautifully made film that gave us something new, presented in a new way. So I am very excited about this sequel, and I would assume it's going to be the Dark Knight of the Batman franchise. What do you call like
when it's in the same ilk? Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I loved the first Batman. My
did
only
too.
gripe with the first Batman was I thought it was a little bit long. I thought it could have been trimmed down a little bit, maybe a little bit better pace. Other than that, I totally thought it was fabulous. I've been waiting on pins and needles for this new one. Anyway, Sean, you've seen this now. It's being delayed again. I don't know, theories as to what might be causing it. Is this a big deal, or is it like Rob is saying, listen, the movie's going to come out. If it's great, we're all going to forget about it anyway. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a death by 1,000 cuts sort of situation of this is not a big delay, and you wouldn't think anything of it if not for the fact that there was years of delays before this little delay.
Yeah.
And there was years of the script's about to come out, we're about to almost done with it. And then another year goes by, and it felt like we were finally getting momentum. We're starting to shoot it. The cast is coming together. So you get the excitement of, man, it's really happening. And then one more time, it's pushed back. It just feels like that death of it just feels discouraging. Like, are we ever going to get this thing? Though obviously they're casting it, they're filming it, they're moving forward. But I don't really have any theories because it is such a small delay. It's not pushed back a year. There wasn't some announcement with it. And so there's any number of reasons they might do that. It feels like a weird month to put out a Batman movie to move to February of all months. So that struck me as kind of odd. But also that's probably because they didn't want to push it back 6 months a year to summertime, because then you start really getting speculation about what's kind of going on. So yeah, it's just discouraging. Like someone pointed out to me when Robert Pattinson was cast, my youngest, actually, when they announced Matt Reeves was making this movie, my youngest child wasn't even born yet. And she's going to be 10 when this movie comes out. So it's like just wild, like the timeline of all of this.
Al, yeah, I mean, again, somebody was mentioning in live chat, this is going to come out when Blade comes out. I mean, like, and I saw somebody, fair question, somebody in the live chat was asking, well, maybe they just need more time for post-production. But here's the thing. You would know how much time you need for post-production when you set the October release date. Like, these things are meticulously planned out. And I don't think they just all suddenly went, oh my God, we forgot we got to do post-production on this movie. Let's bump it. So I don't know. I feel like this is just becoming kind of a running gag, kind of like Blade on that sense. But we know the quality of this. We know it's going to be awesome. And I guess we'll just have to wait a little bit longer. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Batman Part 2 has been delayed again. Now coming out in the year of our Lord 2028. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? I'm not going to lie. I am like anybody else. I can geek out like a freaking little schoolgirl, given the right circumstances. And guys, one of the coolest experiences I have ever had was being at, you got to understand, and I'm not going to get emotional here. My mom loved Spaceballs. I love Spaceballs. And we were at CinemaCon, and we're in the studio presentation, and we know they're going to talk about Spaceballs, and I think they bring out, Moranis, and they bring out Gad, and they bring out, the whole crew. And then they say, we got something to show you. And they run this presentation for Spaceballs, a movie my mom loved. I lost my mom just a couple years ago. And I love, and we're sitting back watching this presentation in CinemaCon with all the studios there and all the theater owners. And the unbridled sexiness that is John Campea came up on screen. And they play this clip of me on the show talking about, oh my God, everybody, they're making another Spaceballs. It's actually, they actually incorporated me into their trailer. And I got to tell you, I can't think of a single thing that would have made me geek out more. And I'm like, and I had no idea they were doing it. And I freaked the hell out. I am obviously somebody who's very excited about a Spaceballs coming. Well, they've dropped a couple of things here for the new Spaceballs with a perfect title, Spaceballs, the New One, which they announced at CinemaCon. Just absolutely perfect title for something like this. So that's coming. But they have dropped a couple of things now. They have dropped a poster, which if you are like me and somebody who appreciates the original Spaceballs, you will appreciate the utter genetic perfection of this poster. This is outstanding of a poster. But even better than the poster is the synopsis that unapologetically, and dare I say nearly savagely, takes some pretty big shots at new Star Wars, when the synopsis for Spaceballs reads like this. Somehow, Dark Helmet has returned. 40 years after the events of the first Spaceballs, 50 years after the events of Star Wars A New Hope, and 1 year after the events of The Devil Wears Prada 2, the galaxy is once again under threat. A threat so evil, so unstoppable, so completely lacking in any original ideas that it has vowed to bring back the past, every last bit of it. With Lone Star in hiding, Queen Vespa on the throne, and the Schwartz stretched thinner than a franchise releasing TV episodes theatrically, not so underhanded shot there at Mandalorian, the only hope for the galaxy is Vespa's undisciplined son, Prince Starburst, of course being played by the dude's real-life son, and a mysterious palace advisor named Destiny. Together, they must find Lone Star, Yogurt, and any other iconic legacy characters fans are determined or demanding before they discover the hard way that while some threats you can fight, the reboot is not one of them. Utter perfection in this. And you know what? I'll tell you what, guys. Being at CinemaCon and seeing who played Lone Star again? President in Independence Day. What's his name again?
Bill Pullman.
But yeah, Dave Pullman.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman, right. And then his son, who of course is Sentry in Thunderbolts. He's out there too. He's playing Lone Star's son in it. And it was funny because they're out on stage and Josh Gad goes to the younger Pullman. So tell us about your long and exhaustive audition process to get this role. And he's like, well, I was born. And then that's it. He got. And then to see, guys, you just got to understand, not only as a lifelong film fan, but as a Canadian, when they announced Rick Moranis, who of course stepped away from the limelight with tragedy in his family happened, and he stepped away, and to see Rick Moranis come out on stage, I got emotional. Like I legit got emotional when that happened, and they showed us this great thing for it. And it is, because listen, as much as when you love something as much as I love Spaceballs, you are set up for disappointment. And you know something like Spaceballs can go really bad, really fast, right? But I was so relieved to see that the stuff they showed us was hilarious. And again, I just got to bring up this poster again. This poster is just such pure perfection. It is one of my favorite movies of all time, Spaceballs. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the synopsis for it, the poster for it. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm just happy for you. I mean, if people can find this much joy in their lives, I will feed off that joy. But no, I mean, Spaceballs is such a beloved film. And the fact that they're even making another one, I mean, I think that Top Gun Maverick proved that great legacy sequels could work. And we're seeing more and more and more of those. I mean, so what if a movie came out 40 years ago? Let's make another one. And I think something like Spaceballs, you have a whole multiple generations of people that some haven't seen Spaceballs. So they'll get the double whammy of getting to see the original, and just like Top Gun. A lot of people went and saw Top Gun Maverick that hadn't seen Top Gun. And I think it's look, if nothing else, it's going to be a big theatrical release comedy. And I think the world needs more of those. And I think it's going to be a huge hit. And I think it's probably going to be great. So there's nothing bad about this in any way, shape, or form. I don't think.
Sean, you had a chance to see the synopsis. I mean, look, spoof movies, especially the last 10 to 15 years, are generally horrible and terrible. Yeah. And it's difficult to find that balance to make it work. And, we don't have John Candy anymore. And, there's so many things that can go wrong. But anyway, you saw the poster, you read the synopsis. I've never asked you, what did you think about the original Spaceballs, and what did you think about the stuff that's come out today?
Yeah, so I grew up watching Spaceballs. It wasn't one that I've loved as much as, say, Airplane or The Naked Gun with other spoof
Oh,
movies
so
from that time
good.
period.
Those are so good.
But I've seen it many, many, many times. Enjoy it enough. Just it's not one of my favorites, but this feels like one of those legacy sequels that makes sense. Not only because it was teased in the original film, but so much of what that movie was spoofing 40 years ago is so much truer now with the corporatization of sequels and franchise and the merchandising, all the stuff it was making fun of. It's just prime material, and it predicted its own existence when the original film came out. And then when you add to that, like bringing Lewis Pullman into it, like that's just a nice little touch. But more importantly, Rick Moranis returning to movies is like, you just say that, and I have a little bit, like I get emotional thinking about it because I grew up watching his movies, and then he stopped making movies 30 years ago and didn't even come back for Ghostbusters. And so him coming back for this means a lot. And then just one final thought of just even what Robert said about the return of big theatrical comedies. We need that. Like we got inoculated to comedy because blockbusters started doing quips because of the Marvel thing. And we stopped getting big theatrical comedies. And then you look at Naked Gun last year, Scary Movie just a month ago. And then we get Spaceballs. I love that comedies are coming back. And I miss sitting in a theater and just laughing with a room full of strangers for 90 minutes.
It is true that it kind of very quietly snuck up on us that you just kind of look back behind you and say, we haven't had a lot of great comedies. And that used to be like a major staple of going to the movies. By the way, I can't remember which movie I saw the other day, but they had a trailer for, what was it? Not Weekend Getaway or something. It's Leslie Mann stars in it with these 4 women who get away for a weekend, and it looks ripping hilarious. Like ripping hilarious. And I've got, if anybody in the Spa Weekend, thank you. Red Carpet is the one who came up. That's right. Spa Weekend. They showed us a trailer for Spa Weekend. It's killing me now. What movie was I at that I saw that trailer for? Anyway. Oh, it was The Invite, which is now my favorite movie of the year. So
I got to watch this trailer. I haven't seen it.
Oh my God. I didn't even hear of the movie. I didn't even know this movie existed. And I love Leslie Mann because
and
she,
Anna
my all-time
Faris is in it, and
Anna
Isla Fisher's
Faris
in
is
it.
in it. Isla Fisher, but like Leslie Mann, who is married to Judd Apatow, is in my all-time favorite comedy, which is 40-Year-Old Virgin, and has like one of my all-time favorite lines. Let's get some fucking French toast. It's like one of the greatest lines in comedies ever. So I love her. But yeah, it's a great lineup. You guys got to see it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you guys have a chance to go and see this synopsis, this poster for Spaceballs, the next one, the new one? I think this reads hilarious. I cannot wait for them to drop a trailer for it because the stuff they showed us was hilarious. What did you think about the poster? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a couple of other really key things to talk about, including Xolo's back, baby. Blue Beetle is coming back, and he's going to be in the next Superman movie, Man of Tomorrow. That and the Odyssey reviews have dropped, and it is the highest critically reviewed wide release blockbuster of the year so far. We're going to look at the numbers both on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic and stuff like that. But before we get to those things, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Mars Men. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Mars Men. You know, one of the things that catches a lot of us guys off guard as we get older is that staying in shape isn't quite as straightforward as it used to be. You can be putting in the same effort at the gym and watching what you eat, but your body just doesn't seem to respond the way that it did a few years ago. A big reason for that is that testosterone levels naturally decline as men age. And that's where today's sponsor, Mars Men, comes in. Mars Men is a natural supplement designed to support healthy testosterone levels with top-notch ingredients. It's made in the USA, third-party tested, contains no synthetic hormones or weird stimulants, and is designed to support healthy testosterone levels, weight management, exercise performance, and overall energy. They also back it up with a 90-day money-back guarantee, which is key. And according to the company, over 91% of users reported higher energy levels. For a limited time, our listeners can get 50% off for life plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. And it's also available on Amazon. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. And thank you to our friends at Mars Men for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. Well, there was some word going around a year or two ago that you guys heard it too, that James Gunn may bring back Blue Beetle from the old DCEU. There's some whispers about that, some talk about that. Nothing ever really materialized until really today. Deadline is now confirmed that Xolo Maridueña is coming back to reprise his role as Blue Beetle in the upcoming DCU's Man of Tomorrow. Deadline writes the following. Surprise! Xolo Maridueña will be suiting up as Blue Beetle again as a part of the cast of Superman's sequel, Man of Tomorrow film. Sources close to the production confirmed to Deadline. This is the first time he will play the DC Comics character since the 2023 film directed by Angel Manuel Soto. Deadline has reached out to DC Studios for comment. And then, of course, it goes on about who he's joining and all this kind of stuff. All right. I have thoughts. The first thing I should probably mention about this, it's funny because on the John Campea Show yesterday, as we were in the Q&A part, somebody wrote in and said, hey, John, did you hear there are reports of Blue Beetle's coming back for Man of Tomorrow? And I said, well, I haven't read that yet, but it would make sense because there were whispers before that he was going to do it, that James Gunn was going to bring Blue Beetle back. So I haven't heard that myself, but it would make sense. And now Deadline has kind of confirmed that. First thing I should probably mention is that I don't care how horrible the box office was for that Blue Beetle movie. I thought it was cute. I thought that Blue Beetle movie was actually pretty entertaining. Was it one of the best DCEU films? No, but I liked it. And I thought Xolo in the role as Jaime was really, really good. Like I did. I thought he had to have that charm and that charisma, and he won me over. And I enjoyed watching the film. I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty good. It was a total failure. It made less money than, I did running a lemonade stand, but whatever. I thought it was a pretty decent movie. So I thought it was kind of a shame that it went down that way. Now, him coming back as Blue Beetle is not going to be the first character we technically had in the DCEU that they're also bringing over. I submit subject 1, Peacemaker, right? Peacemaker came over. Now with Peacemaker, I always said before they even officially announced it, I said it would be okay if they brought over Peacemaker because all they would have to retcon is that one shot. That one shot at the end of season 1 when the Justice League shows up for a second, right? Other than that one shot, there was really nothing that firmly tied Peacemaker to the DCEU. And you could have said he's always been a part of this new DCU, so that was fine. Technically speaking, you could say the same thing about Blue Beetle, right? There really wasn't anything in Blue Beetle that firmly anchored it to the DCEU as opposed to the DCU. Yeah, they reference Batman, but that could be in any DC universe, right? So that's all cool too. But that being said, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. And that is in no way a negative reflection on Xolo, who I thought was very good in the role. It's not a reflection on that I don't think Blue Beetle isn't a good character to bring into the DCU, especially as a supporting character in a bigger heroes movie like Superman and Man of Tomorrow. But the word exception means once. And I think you can make an exception for Peacemaker. I don't know that I see the wisdom in bringing more baggage over from, let's just call, as much as I liked almost every movie in the DCEU, let's call what it is. a failed film franchise. And by the time Blue Beetle came out, the failure was stonk level. I mean, it was bad. And so I just don't see the upside to bringing more from the old failed, burned to the ground DCEU over. And again, that's not a commentary on Xolo. I thought he was really good in the role. I thought he deserved better. But it is what it is. And now I think if you're going to do Blue Beetle, I think you do a new Blue Beetle. I don't think you bring over the one from the DCEU, as good as I thought he played the role. So listen, guys, as a big James Gunn fan and as a big James Gunn supporter, I have more and more been questioning some of his decisions. Primarily, obviously, the one I complain about the most is like, hey, dude, like, pick a job. Are you a writer-director for the DCU, or are you the CEO of the company? Like, you can't half-ass both. Whole-ass one. Don't do both. I'm starting to question. I don't mind coming out of the gate with one or two smaller IPs, but I'm starting to question, especially with word about a possible, Deathstroke and Bane project. I'm like, really? Like, we still don't have Wonder Woman. We still don't have Batman. I mean, we are years into this now. And I just don't think it's a good idea to bring back this character from the previous film franchise when you've already brought over a couple under the Peacemaker banner. Again, listen, if they do it, and it looks like they are, I will be there on opening day and I will be waving my Xolo flag and cheering for it to really work. I just have to say, objectively, as somebody who did like that movie, I don't think this is a good idea. Anyway, Sean, you've read this news. I've never asked, what did you think about that Blue Beetle movie? And how do you feel about the idea of bringing him back now into the new DCU?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was wholesome, and I liked that not every comic book movie is trying to knock it out of the park and be the biggest, most epic. It just went, yeah, we can be a mid-tier little superhero movie with big action, but it's about a family. And I appreciated that. I think when that movie came out, James Gunn said something like, Blue Beetle isn't the first DCU movie, but he's the first DCU character. And I guess
remember that
statement that statement makes more sense now that he's pulling him over. I don't see too much damage in bringing Blue Beetle over, simply because the movie made such a small splash that I don't think normal people don't even associate it with the DCEU because they didn't see it. They didn't go watch it. And so I don't see too much damage in bringing it over. I don't see too much benefit in bringing it over. I think it's interesting. He's doing this populated universe, so it makes sense that who can we pull from that we can introduce over? It makes sense to me. But like you said, it just kind of feels like there's a lot of just odd choices. Like, of all the characters you could bring over, of all the characters you could introduce, of all the ways you could populate the universe, I just don't know that this is the one that makes the splash that the DCU needs to really get some strong momentum. So there's a lot of, I just don't get it. I don't mind it, but I don't get it.
Rob, Sean raises a really interesting point. Could it be that the complete and utter box office failure of Blue Beetle could actually work to its benefit here? The fact that there's probably a lot of people out there who don't even remember a Blue Beetle movie came out. And maybe for a lot of people, this would be brand spanking fresh new. I don't know. What do you think about it, Rob?
Well, I think that's an interesting idea. And I thought the movie was fun. If it had come out years before it was released, I think people would look back on it fondly for what it was. I guess I always expected James Gunn to do something like this, but I didn't think, I guess I didn't really think something like this would happen. I mean, there's already so many characters. I guess adding one more to the mix isn't going to do anything, but is it weird? Yeah, maybe. But I do think that I liked him as the character.
I do too.
And I thought he was a winsome. The word winsome comes to mind. And I think that if there's, in terms of what James Gunn did with his first Superman, and all these characters were, I mean, I really enjoyed everybody from Hawkgirl to Mr. Terrific to of course Guy Gardner. And I like the fact that he's letting us all know that this is a universe populated with metahumans. And I don't mind it. I mean, I just hope that we get a really interesting and compelling Superman movie. He can put as many people as he wants in it. I just want to see a great Superman story.
All right, guys. Question is for you. That Blue Beetle movie that I got a real kick out of, and I thought Xolo was really good in the role, they're bringing him back. Again, they always kind of whispered and mentioned that they might. Just nothing ever materialized, and we all kind of forgot about it. But here it is. He's back. I don't think it's a good move to bring over another failed universe's character, but I do like the guy playing in the role. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. It's not often that I've heard as much raging debate about how good or bad a movie is that nobody had ever seen than the Odyssey. Now, of course, we got our first glimpse of first reactions from a bunch of the outlets a week or two ago. But, you know, the first reactions usually do tend to skew a little bit more positive until the full reviews come out and all that kind of stuff. So it was with bated breath, like watching a car accident about to happen that you just can't look away from, that we knew that the review embargo for the Odyssey was lifting today. And I remember I put up a post on the community tab about 5 minutes before the review embargo lifted. And I said, well, guys, the review embargo on the Odyssey lifts in about 5 minutes. Get ready for tons of I told you so posts if it's not good, and a whole bunch of critics are all paid off comments if they are good. Well, the reviews are here. 98%. 98%. I counted, there are 4 negative reviews out of the 164. Now, when you talk about the difference between, like, say, a critic rating or a Rotten Tomatoes critic rating and, say, like a Metacritic critic rating, is that a 98% on RT, it literally could just mean, hey, they didn't super love the movie, but they liked it. And if enough of them liked it, that gives it a 98%. Metacritic's a little bit different. Metacritic doesn't gauge how many liked it. They gauge what the overall viewing of it is. This is what Metacritic did for it. 88. It gave it the category of universal acclaim. It has 53 reviews registered under Metacritic right now. 49 of them positive, 4 of them mixed, none negative. None negative on Metacritic. So whether you're a Metacritic guy, whether you're a Rotten Tomatoes guy, the scores are insane. As a matter of fact, if we go back over to Metacritic here for a second, we start running down the outlets. Arizona Republic gave it 100 out of 100. RogerEbert.com scored it 100. The Guardian scored it 100. Screen Rant scored it 100. The Playlist scored it 100. USA Today scored it 100. Empire Magazine scored it 100. New York Post scored it 100. The Telegraph scored it 100. The Independent scored it 100. There's a lot of them that really loved it. Now, look. I am now convinced this is going to be the next chapter in there are some movies everybody loves that John doesn't. The original Halloween doesn't hold up. Sorry, Rob. Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. I don't think the original Blade Runner is very good. I am totally alone in my peer group in those thoughts, but I gotta be honest, those are, and I don't know why I got this sinking feeling in my gut that maybe the Odyssey is going to be the next one for me, but I do know that it looks awesome and it looks incredible and looks great. And, you know, this is the highest critic score that a Christopher Nolan movie's had. At this point. So, I mean, everything's looking pretty damn good. Again, I'm seeing it at 2:00 tomorrow. Rob, I know you're seeing it tomorrow, but we're lucky enough that we got somebody in the room who has actually seen it. Sean has seen the movie himself right now. So I'll just ask in basic terms, and I'll ask you to non-spoilery get into it a little bit, but you're on Rotten Tomatoes. You got to click the fresh or rotten button. Which one are you pressing?
Well, I've already submitted my score to Rotten Tomatoes, and it was fresh. And it's like I had some criticisms about the storytelling because it's non-linear, which is true to Homer's work, but it makes it so the story feels a little bit at arm's length. There's a couple of criticisms I had, but who are we kidding? It's Christopher Nolan tackling the Odyssey. Like, it's a tremendous achievement. It's the sort of movie that very few people could make, both in terms of competency as well as being trusted by Hollywood to try and pull off this movie in this way. And, of course, it's by its nature a huge sweeping epic when it's Christopher Nolan and you're just doing as much practical in camera as possible, shooting it with IMAX cameras. It's just, it feels huge. You feel the dirt, you feel the wetness of the costumes, the grit, the grime, you feel all of it. When you get into the actual Odyssey, when they go to these islands, it plays like a horror movie. I mean, it's as big and massive in scope, scale, and size as you would want, while also being a really interesting follow-up to Oppenheimer, because both of the movies are about men dealing with the consequences of the world created with how they won a war through their ingenuity and their creativity. And so they're wildly different movies, but also kind of the same in another sense. And it has big emotion. It crescendos so nicely in the third act when it comes together. And I love you don't know who you're messing with moments in movies. And if you know the Odyssey, this one has some awesome ones in it when you get into the last little bit. So as someone that Christopher Nolan is a formative director for me. I saw Memento at an art house theater, one of the first movies I ever saw at an art house theater. My friend's like, this movie plays backwards. I'm fresh out of high school and I see it and I was like, wow, there's awesome movies that don't have aliens and superheroes. This is incredible. And I've been a huge fan of his ever since. And that streak is untarnished by the Odyssey.
Rob, we've all thought it's Christopher Nolan, so we do have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Right. And that Trojan horse prelude clip that they put out in IMAX theaters did look incredible. Rob, you and I both, though, as much as we believed in it, when that one trailer came out and, my dad's coming back, like both of us are a little bit, it feels a little weird. And granted, it's just a trailer, but both you and I were like, yeah, a little bit weird. So what were your final kind of expectations? Where did you think these reviews were going to come out when they start dropping? Because I thought they were going to be good. I don't know that I was expecting, universal praise on Metacritic and like a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know. What were you thinking heading into this?
Well, I was really I'm most curious, because I haven't seen it yet, about just how he handles all of this material. I've been arguing for the fact that I've loved movies that delve into myth in ways that aren't necessarily, like Excalibur being a prime example of going into the Arthurian legends, but it's not period accurate. And the story's very stylized in the way it's told. And I remember reading criticisms of Excalibur back in 81 when it first came out, and I was a young whippersnapper thinking, well, that's odd because the movie doesn't say, I mean, it's a retelling of Le Morte d'Arthur, but it's not saying that this is real. And to me, the language was interesting, the modern vernacular is interesting, but I understand, it's a hard thing to do when you're going to start doing period like this, because if you make everybody talk in accents and you go back to Old English or Old Greek, as it were, it can be a little rough. And the thing about Christopher Nolan is, say what you want about him, his movies are peak verisimilitude. He makes you believe. And like whatever you're watching, you're not looking at, I saw somebody online today, I forget who it was, saying, he was used to looking around the edges for the green screen.
That was Tom Holland. That was Tom Holland that said that, I think.
Oh, well, and that when you're watching the movie, it's all real and you can feel that it's real. Mm-hmm. And for that alone, John, you talk about experiential events. That's what I'm most interested in. I'm most interested in being immersed in Nolan. Nolan creates reality. Even when I don't love his stories like Tenet, I just loved watching that movie unfold because it was quote unquote real. Same with Inception. Even when you're looking at these landscapes where one city's folding in on itself, it looks like, well, if that really happened, it would look just like Christopher Nolan's making it look. And there's nobody, I think, working in Hollywood today who is this kind of filmmaker. So, and I haven't loved everything he's done. I had big logic problems with The Dark Knight Rises, even though I can watch the first 45 minutes of that movie on repeat forever, and nothing even really happens in those first 45 minutes. I just like watching what he's providing to us. So I'm really interested in seeing it in that way, and I'm sure that I will really enjoy that aspect of it, but I don't think necessarily that I'm predisposed to loving it.
You know what I did last night, guys? Ann and I got back from a concert last night, and we got back a little bit late, so she went to bed, but I wasn't quite tired, so I popped on the TV, and Troy was on. We are lions, right? And so I started watching Troy, and again, no Greek accents anywhere to be found. But I remember I don't know how, it's kind of creepy how my smart TV knows what I'm doing, because then I go to my YouTube thing on my TV, and it's got this video of this professor of Homeric poetry from England who does a breakdown of Troy and everything inaccurate about it. Now, he started off, it's kind of funny, and it's like this stereotypical English professor, right? And almost straight out of Harry Potter. And he starts off by saying, first, you need to know I love this movie. He goes, I love Troy. I get a lot of kick out of it. He said, but it's so wrong. And he starts going through like coins on the eyes. Let me put coins on his eyes. He goes, never happened. He goes, never, not part of it. And like all these things, and he's just like ripping apart everything that is wrong with Troy from a, Homer point of view and a history point of view. But at the end of the day, he didn't really care. He said, I still love this movie. I don't care, which I thought was really cool. I wanted to do it as a double feature, knowing that I'm going to go in and see the Odyssey tomorrow. So now I've seen Troy. Now I get to go in and see that. So I had a lot of fun with it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The full reviews are now out for the Odyssey, and it is the highest critically rated big release of the year so far, pulling in massive Rotten Tomatoes numbers, massive critic or Metacritic numbers across the board. Will that translate into box office? Can this movie have, as an R-rated film, have as big of an opening as, say, Nolan's last film, Oppenheimer, at 82 million? Can it do that? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, it's now time for us to move on to the part of the show where we take your live comments and questions. But before we do that, we got to do two things. First is bid good afternoon to the likes of esteemed colleague, writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks for being here, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Yes, you will. And it was great to stream with you too. So,
and speaking of you too, not Bono, of course, but Sean Chandler. Sean, thank you again for being here again. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me. Great to finally get to talk to Robert.
We'll talk to you later, sir. And the last thing we have to do before we go on to taking your live comments and questions is, of course, we're going to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Look, guys, we talk about mental health a lot around here and a lot more openly these days, but actually raising your hand and asking for help, it can still feel incredibly hard. I mean, we wouldn't hesitate to tell a friend it's good to talk to somebody, but society still makes us think twice when it's our turn. BetterHelp is working to bridge that gap. They are the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 6 million people globally with a network of over 30,000 fully licensed, high-quality therapists who work under a strict code of of conduct. And the bottom line is that the data shows it works, holding an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp handles the initial matching work for you through a short questionnaire tailored to your needs and preferences. Plus, their industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they usually get it right the first time, but if you ever want to switch, you can do so at any time. Don't let stigma stand in the way of support. Start therapy with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's betterhelp.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that all down, we've got a lot of your questions have come in. Again, I should have turned off the super chats sooner, but I didn't. So they are turned off now, but we got a lot of them have already come in. So let's get over to it and start taking your questions, shall we? I think we're going to start off with Nash. Yes, Nashville Predators writes, Olivia Wilde was on the Smartless podcast this week, and she said Behemoth, which we talked about, that amazing new Tony Gilroy trailer that dropped yesterday, was about a cellist in the world of film scoring. That's neat. And seeing how some of that process is done for movies, she said it's a fascinating look at the people in that part of the filmmaking process. As a film soundtracks nerd, I got super excited by her description of it. My guess is that Behemoth may be a fake movie they are making music for. Yeah, that's my guess too. I mean, I didn't know it'd be for making music for a movie, but that makes sense. Obviously, I thought they were putting together a new concert, a new show, a new something. I didn't realize it was going to be like literally in the music for film world. You know what's funny? We were in Boston a few weeks ago, and a buddy of ours joined us out there, and he said something interesting. He said, really, film scores is the new classical music. And I was going to object when he said that, but I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? I don't think you're all that wrong. I think it kind of is. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they play that out. That trailer looked really good. I still am guessing there's going to be a supernatural twist. I don't know why. The trailer made me feel like there's going to be some kind of little supernatural twist. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll find out. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Nash Preds. Appreciate that, man. All right. Next up, Amin writes, a full Dune trilogy within 5 years, one Batman film in 6 years. Crazy. Though honestly, I'm more impressed with how quickly we've gotten all 3 Dune films. To be fair, when they started making Dune, Denis Villeneuve knew he was going to make those 3, right? Like they knew they were going to do those 3. I don't think that was the case when they made the Batman. Like it wasn't until I think like a year later, I might not be remembering it exactly right, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like it wasn't until sometime after the Batman and its great success that they even said, okay, we're going to do another one, right? Where it was like when they were doing Dune, I think Villeneuve understood we're going to make 3. And I think that was always part of the process. With the first Batman film, I think it was like, let's make it. And I don't know that they were hard set on doing a sequel until after the movie had all the success and all that kind of stuff. So I'll cut it a little. Look, it is getting too long, right? It's getting ridiculous. Now coming out in 2028. That being said, in comparing it to Dune, which I myself did, you got to cut a little bit of slack because Dune knew it was going to be 3, right? I don't think they knew that they were going to be doing that. And of course, Dune are some of the greatest movies ever made. Dune 2 is the best movie made in the last 10 years, in my opinion. We'll see if they're able to bring it home with the 3rd one, though. All right. Next up, Patrick Stewart sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, man. Appreciate that, dude. And Patrick writes, my dad and I are excited to see the Odyssey tomorrow. We are doing a rare IMAX viewing. I heard a lot of good word from the critics and reviewers. I remember reading the Odyssey for a 9th grade English 2011 through 2012 school year. Yeah, listen, I think there's a lot of people going into this having read it in school. We never did read the Odyssey or the Iliad. When I was in school, we read a lot of the classics, but we didn't read those ones. So I didn't actually read the Iliad, I think until like the 2nd year I moved out to LA. think it was the first time I ever read it. I never read it in school, but for a lot of people in the States, I guess for more schools here, that's part of the curriculum. And a lot of people are going to be going into it, with this story already kind of embedded in their minds. It's going to be interesting to see how that experience then of seeing it on screen plays out to now, once you've already got it kind of in your mind that you read it in school. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Patrick. And thank you for supporting us on that level, man. I hope you and your dad have a great time when you guys go see it. Hope we all have a good time when we go see it. All right. Next up, Tristan writes, went through the Odyssey's 3 negative reviews. One gave Dune a C+. Well, one gave Dune to a C+, while the other 2 just rated Supergirl fresh. Just found that funny. Well, I mean, look, let me say this. I think it's folly to go back into what a critic thought about 1,000 different movies and kind of cherry pick out ones that don't look right? Because we've all seen hundreds of movies in the last few years, all of us. And there are going to be many we like and many that we agree with most people and many that we disagree with most people. So yeah. Okay. So you found one guy who didn't like the Odyssey, and it just so happens he also didn't like the masterpiece that is Dune 2. Okay. But I bet if you went more in depth, I bet probably about 70% of the movies that they liked, you also probably liked, right? I mean, I just think it's precarious to get into a cherry picking game of trying to pick out movies. Oh, look, this person didn't like this movie. Well, so? Right? There's lots of movies. We all have our own different experiences with it. There are people out there who don't like The Godfather. No movie is beloved by everybody. That's the beautiful thing about the art. It's not going to hit everybody the same way. There are going to be people who watch the Odyssey. I might be one of them who just legitimately didn't enjoy it. And that's totally fair. So I don't think there's a lot to benefit from them going rabbit hunting down their history of reviews and cherry picking out ones that look odd. Because if you had a full record of all the movies you say you liked and didn't like online, I bet a lot of people could go and pick it apart too. So I wouldn't worry about that myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. That is kind of funny. 2 of the ones that didn't like the Odyssey also like Supergirl. Yeah, that's kind of funny, but I wouldn't read too much into it. That's all I'm saying, Tristan. I wouldn't read too much into it. All right. Next up, Jai CSC writes, would I be correct to assume that even if the Ellisons were to forfeit certain IPs and assets, example HBO, for the deal to go through, they still need to pay the full $110 billion for their bid? Yes. So, you guys, if you've watched the show, you know what I think is going to happen with these lawsuits. I think what'll happen is Paramount will go to the states that are suing them and say, okay, what can we do to make this deal more palatable for you? Like if we cut out CNN, if we cut out HBO, if we cut out TNT, if we cut out this division or that division, right? That's what I think will happen. So let's say for wild, the purposes of the discussion, let's say that happens and they cut out a couple of pieces. What would then happen is they still have to buy the whole thing from Warner Brothers because that's the deal. So they would buy the whole thing from Warner Brothers. If this were to happen, this is all theoretical. They would buy the whole thing from Warner Brothers. And then once they purchased it, they would have a legally binding agreement with those states that as soon as they buy the whole thing, they will start selling off the pieces they agreed to divest themselves of. So let's, for argument's sake, say Paramount and the 12 states suing them make a deal. Okay, we will cut out TNT and CNN. What will then happen is they will sign an agreement. Then they will finish the purchase. They'll buy Warner Brothers and pay them the $110 billion. They'll get everything, including CNN and TNT, and then they will have probably a ticking clock. They'll have like 6 months or a year that they have to sell off TNN and CNN to somebody else. So yes, if for whatever reason they did decide to sacrifice and divest themselves of some of Warner Brothers' assets, they would still have to buy the whole damn thing and then sell off those pieces later. So in theory, that's how that would work out. Anyway, I hope that made sense. Okay, next up. Nexus Fuel writes, smear campaign failed. Well, did it? I mean, yeah, if the Odyssey opens to $80 million, then yes, it failed. But I don't know, if the Odyssey opens to $35 million, if it opens to $30 million, the smear campaign was never going to affect reviewers going to see it, right? That was never going to affect them because they're professionals. It was never going to affect the critics. The question is, does it have an impact on turning people off from seeing it? And I don't know, like if the Odyssey ends up opening to $35 million, maybe you can make an argument that it did work. If it opens to $80+ million, then clearly not. So I wouldn't say smear campaign failed just from the reviews. You got to see what happens if it had any effect when the box office comes out. All right. Jay Tovin writes, do you think the delay affects the DCU Batman? No, I don't think it has any impact on it at all. When you're talking, I am assuming when you're talking about the delay, you're talking about the delay of the Batman 2. No, I don't think that has any impact on that, positively or negatively. I think it's being handled completely separately. Good question, but I think it has no impact. All right, next up. Bry Guy writes, at this point, if Gunn decided to merge Pattinson into the DCU, he won't. I wouldn't even be upset. I'd get it. We might not see DCU Batman until 2030. Listen, I am one of those guys that when they were rolling out the first few projects for the DCU and people were saying, no Batman, huh? I'm like, listen, you don't have to roll out Batman right away. We're getting on 3 years since James Gunn made the first Gods and Monsters announcement. Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, but was it not 2023 that James Gunn rolled out the initial kind of the project list that they were looking at for the Gods and Monsters? Correct. Again, I'm terrible with dates. You guys know that, but I think it was 2023. Was it not? Go ahead and put in the live chat if I'm right or wrong about that. So it's been 3 years since that. And it's okay that we don't, they're saying January 2023. It's been 3.5 years since that announcement. And it's okay that we don't already have a Batman movie done, but we don't even have any firm concrete roadmap showing us when we're ever getting I mean, at this point, we got to start talking about Batman being in this DCU. It's been 3.5 years. So they do have to get moving on that. Anyway, next up, James Germain writes, I Play Rocky is the movie You know what? I said that earlier. Somebody in the live chat said that exact same thing. Well, worded it a little bit differently, but I think you are 100% right about that, James. Like, I think that is a perfect comparison. That's exactly what it feels like. And that's a good thing because the offer is awesome. All right. Mark Sipp writes, my wild theory, Doomsday trailer drops Monday morning. I think it'll drop Saturday night but we'll see. Anyway, adding even more excitement right as the tickets go on sale. Maybe trailer even ends with tickets on sale now. Listen, so the tickets are going to go on sale on Monday. By the way, a bunch of people sent me emails this morning. A movie theater, I think in Birmingham, Alabama. And I got a bunch of emails about this. Accidentally put the tickets to Avengers on sale already. And let me see. Well, first of all, let me see if I can pull it up here. And if I can, if it's even appropriate to show. Yeah, here it is. They sent me the receipt too. A movie theater in Birmingham, Alabama accidentally put the tickets on sale for Avengers Doomsday early. And they acknowledged the mistake and said, and they took it down, but they are going to honor all the sales that already happened. So that's key. Interesting thing though, on it says it's 185 minutes. We know now that that's not true. We know it's because that's over 3 hours. We know now because they put out the official stuff the other day that it's actually going to be shorter than that. But like 2 hours and 45, I think they said it's going to be. But I still think that's interesting that sort of that came out there. So do they drop the trailer Monday as the tickets go on sale? If it wasn't for the fact that Marvel is having its Hall H CinemaCon or Comic-Con presentation just less than a week after that, I would agree. But I kind of think, I don't know this for a fact, but I kind of think they'll hold off on dropping the trailer until Comic-Con. I think Comic-Con is when they'll drop the trailer. Again, I could be totally wrong about that. That's just me guessing. All right. Next up, we've got Bill's HQ, who writes, on my way to a first date, we are seeing The Invite. That's an interesting choice for a first date. And then getting some food after. Super nervous, but seeing the movie first should calm me down. Really excited for the potential of the night. I don't know if The Invite is a great first date movie. It is my favorite movie of the year so far. It has leapfrogged over, not by a lot, but it has leapfrogged over Project Hail Mary for me as the best movie of the year so far. But I don't know if it's the best first date movie. It's a great date night movie with your girlfriend. It's a great date night movie with your spouse. I don't know if it's a great first date movie I don't know if it's a great first date movie. Don't know if it's a great first date movie. Anyway, you're probably already on your way to it, so I hope it works out for you. All right, next up. Gavin Cagle writes, few things in life are certain, but roses are red, violets are blue. Christopher Nolan made a movie. It's going to be peak cinema through and through. Oh, you got a little bit of poetry in there. I mean, look, I admit I don't desperately love every Christopher Nolan film. I had issues with Tenet. I still do. I like The Dark Knight Rises, but I also think it's like clearly the weakest of his 3 Batman movies. I pretty much love all of his other films, but I don't love every single Christopher Nolan film. But I mean, this does look great. I hope it's great. I haven't seen it yet, but it certainly looks great. All right, Gavin also writes, in the 6-year gap between the Batman movies, I will have graduated college, got married, started building my house, and might even have a kid or two. I know. Like, look, James Gunn is right when he's saying, hey, listen, it's not completely uncommon to have a bunch of years between an original film and its sequel. I mean, one of the films that he pointed out was The Incredibles. How many years was it between The Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2? And now we've got a whole lot of years between Incredibles 2 and Incredibles 3. So something to be said there. But I mean, you're all right. It's taken a while, man. It's taken a while for us to get this Batman movie. All right. Movie Buff writes, love the show. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I've been watching since college. What would be your tip for an inspiring director who's looking to get her work out there? Listen, I've been saying this for a while. I've been saying this for a long time. And this year, movies like, especially Back Rooms, and movies like Lights Out. Movies like Back Rooms and Lights Out really prove it. Aspiring directors today have an advantage that aspiring filmmakers in ages past did not. You guys have YouTube. Which means, like the guy who directed Lights Out, he started by directing a short film that got put on YouTube called Lights Out, and then the studio made a full-length feature film out of it and got him to direct it. Same thing happened with Back Rooms. The director for Back Rooms made a short film based on the Back Rooms mythology and got wildly popular and then got hired. I've always said, and I say this about a lot of different things too, make your own opportunities. And if you need to start filling up a resume, make your own resume entries. Don't lie, but create your own resume entries. People used to ask me when I was running places like AMC and Collider Video, they'd ask me, what can I do to position myself to get hired by a bigger site like AMC News or something like that? I said this, well, if no one's going to hire you because you have no experience, make your own site, make your own blog, make your own podcast, make your own YouTube channel, so that when you go and audition or, interview for those gigs, when they say, what would you do with this? Say, this is my favorite interview line I've always used. Don't say what I would do. Say, when somebody would ever ask me, what would you do in a situation like this? I will always say this. Let me tell you what I have done in situations like that. That was free. That little nugget of gold was free. That's my favorite line that I ever used in interviews. Instead of me telling you what I would do, let me tell you what I have done. And so I would say, the great film instructor, Dove S.S. Simmons, I quote this all the time because it's true. At the beginning of his course, he tells his students this: if you want to know how to make a movie, here's how you do it. Get a camera, point it at some friends, hit record and say action. An hour and a half later, say cut and stop recording. You've made a movie. I would say if you are an aspiring director, take advantage of the opportunities you have. Start making stuff. Make stuff. And then just put it up on YouTube. And then make more. And then make more. And then make more. I mean, look, and then do all the traditional stuff as well. Network, get actual education in it as well. All the traditional things too. But take advantage of the technology that's available to you and the platforms you have to you now. That would be my best piece of advice at any rate. All right. Next up. Thanks for that, Movie Buff. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Joshua Maine, who writes, hey, John, I just lost my mom suddenly about a month ago. I'm so sorry to hear that, dude. I went through something similar. Good Canadian kid like yourself. She is the reason I love movies. My mom, too. My mom was absolutely the reason I loved movies. And work in the industry. She always took me to the theater growing up. She raised me and my sister on her own. Still doesn't feel real. Dude, listen, I wish I could tell you, I'm not going to be facetious. I wish I could tell you that it gets easier and better. But I'm very emotionally stunted when it comes to my mom. We're getting on to, we're a year and a half now since my mom passed away. And I have still not yet begun to process it. I'm being vulnerable and I'm just being honest with you guys. I still haven't started to process it. Part of that is because I'm separated from my family, like my family, my siblings. I do not tell my siblings this enough or ever, but I mean, I love my siblings. I do. Rob, Heather, Sandy. I love my dad. I don't say that nearly enough, but they're all up in Canada and they're all together. And I think every time they talk to each other and see each other or whatever, they're confronted with my mom's passing because that's there. And being down here, I haven't. And it messes me up. Not gonna lie. Totally messes me up. There are still part of the reasons why I bawled like a freaking baby when I came out of that Spaceballs presentation at CinemaCon. We walked out of the theater and we were in the hallway and I just broke down because it made me think of my mom. And that still happens to me once or twice a week. Some happens, I think about my mom and I just kind of break down because I haven't been healthy. Like I haven't in a healthy way dealt with it. I say all that because it sounds like your experience with your mom was very similar to mine. And so you're going to be hit in the face with it every time you see a movie. That's what happens to me because like me, your mom is the reason you love movies. And if you're anything like me, now every time you sit down to watch a movie, that's going to be a thing that I'm not going to get emotional. It's been a year and a half since my mom died, for heaven's sakes. But if you're anything like me, every time now you sit down to watch a movie, it's probably going to be something that confronts you, right? I'm just sharing my experience with you. That is both a bitter and a beautiful thing. Because while it sucks that every time I sit down to watch a film, I'm thinking about my mom, it's also amazing that every time I sit down. it's also amazing that every time you and I and all the rest of you who are like us, that your parents are part of the reason you loved movies. It is also a beautiful thing that every time we sit down, that every time we sit down to watch a movie, we get to think of them, right? It sucks and it's awesome at the same time. And I think that's a beautiful thing that you get to have. That's a beautiful thing, but it's also, as a beautiful thing, it's going to be something that sucks every once in a while. It's going to be something that sucks every once in a while. But I wouldn't trade it. I don't think you would either. And so again, very, very sorry, to hear about the passing of your mom. But again, Joshua, if you're anything like me, it will be hard, but it's also going to be awesome that you get to have that every time now you watch movies, because she passed that love on to you. So I think that's great. It'll suck sometimes, but I also think it's great. Thank you for that. By the way, I just noticed you also tipped in $50. Thank you, man. That's incredibly generous of you. Totally awesome of you. Thank you so much for sharing. That's great, man. And all my best thoughts to you. Anyway, now that I've just totally embarrassed myself, Nerdy Nate writes, did you buy any AMC stock when it was at $1? I did. If so, you would have doubled your investment as of today. Loved meeting you in Boston. I did, and I sold it. Because the AMC stock has kind of done this. But yes, like, here's the thing. When we were talking about how the AMC stock had dipped below $1 and it was at all-time lows, I made a video about it. But one of the things I said at the end of the video was, now listen, this is also looking to be a very good year at the box office, right? It's going to be a very good year at the box office. And that is going to help AMC because we got some big hit movies coming out. And sure enough, the stock rise. And now, so I'm not going to go into the details, but I did buy a bunch of AMC. And then I did sell it when it was at about 80% appreciation. So I didn't hold it, and I don't regret that I didn't hold it, because it's still very volatile. But I'm not going to lie to you, I did pretty good on my AMC trades. I did pretty good on it. Anyway, Jake Toven writes, is it an overreaction to say that the CW cheapening its main characters played a hand in the destruction of the DC brand? You know, a hand? Sure. But I don't know that I would say a monstrous hand. At the end of the day, if Superman's Man of Steel, I got my boy Henry back here. If Man of Steel had been more universally loved, I loved it. I loved it enough for all of us, but not a lot of the rest of you did. If it was more universally beloved, then it wouldn't have had that much of then the TV stuff on CW really wouldn't have had very little impact. If Justice League had been beloved, wouldn't have mattered that much. At the end of the day, it always comes down to, did you make good movies? And unfortunately, despite the fact that I loved a lot of them, in general, people just didn't like the DCEU product. So did the CW cheapening of the brand hurt it? Sure, it played a part, but I would say much, much, much bigger of a part is just the fact that they failed to put out universally appreciated and quality films, despite the fact that I really liked it. So anyway, there's that. All right, next up, we've got Scott D who writes, can you send the soundboard to Jonathan so he can play the Oppenheimer sound every time the movie is brought up? I've missed not hearing it. I see Oppenheimer. It is good. You know what? I still have, Jonathan doesn't work in the office with me now, but the soundboard is still over there. I am going to bring the soundboard over to my desk so I can, use that thing in the future. It's very good that you pointed that out. Okay, next up. Raul Rosario writes, Obsession or Companion? Which do you prefer? Obsession. I thought Companion was very good. Like, I like Companion. I thought it was very good. I didn't think it was great, but I mean, like A-list, right? But I thought it was really good, and I really enjoyed Companion. I thought it was a lot of fun. Obsession was a wild experience. Like, I was just emotionally tattered at times watching Obsession. So Obsession right now is my 4th favorite movie of the year. So my favorite is The Invite. My second favorite right now is Project Hail Mary. My third favorite is Sheep Detectives. Surprisingly enough, but there it is. I never would have guessed, but there it is. And Obsession is my 4th favorite film of the year so far. So yeah, I'll say Obsession myself. All right. Jonathan Savage writes, I'm watching the Odyssey in IMAX on the second row. Will it be enjoyable that close? I don't know. It depends on your IMAX theater. If the seats are far enough back, and depending on how it's elevated too, like if your second row is still like elevated enough, it might not be that bad. I know I have passed on IMAX screenings when I see that only like the first 3 or 4 rows are available. I've passed on a lot of those because I do worry about that myself. So I will say this. I think there's a risk it might be a difficult viewing experience, but every cinema is different, so maybe yours will be okay. That's my best guess at any rate. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Sir Z, who writes, John, you're a Don. Thank you. Do you think Netflix's motivation to buy NBC has anything to do with Taylor Sheridan moving back to NBC in 2029? I'm not sure Netflix does have a strong interest in buying NBC. I'm not sure that they do. And if they do, no, I don't think it has anything to do with Taylor Sheridan. I think it's their interest in buying a studio is about getting into the theatrical business and buying an existing business that already has decades and decades and decades and decades, nearly a century of infrastructure and logistics and groundwork and mechanisms in place for a distribution network and a film production network. I think that's their main thing. I don't think it has anything to do with any individual IP or any individual filmmaker. If they really wanted Taylor Sheridan, instead of spending $70 billion to buy NBC Universal, they could spend $800 million and just get Taylor Sheridan if they really wanted that, right? So I think it has nothing to do with that. And listen, I still think, this is just me speculating, I don't have inside information on this. I still think at the end of the day, I think Netflix doesn't believe the Paramount deal will work. Even if the sale completes, I believe that Netflix thinks, they could be right or wrong, but Netflix thinks they're going to fail. And I think Netflix is just going to sit back and they believe that within a year, 2 years, or 3 years, they're going to be able to go ahead and buy Warner Brothers anyway for a fraction of what they were about to buy them for last year. So I think they're waiting on Warner Brothers. I could be wrong. That's just me guessing, but that's what I ultimately think they're waiting on. Let's see. Here we go. Darian writes, when the Superman 2025 trailer dropped, I was shocked by how many color grading experts there were in the comments. With the Odyssey, I was shocked by how many people know how a Cyclops looked in real life. Yeah. Or what the skin color would be of a woman conceived by Zeus and hatching out of a giant swan egg looks like in real life. You know, I used to have the same debate with people with, Zack Snyder's version of Flash with Ezra Miller, because, you know, Ezra Miller had that weird looking run, right? Ezra Miller had that run where he's like, and everybody would mark it. That's just stupid. That's not how you would run. And I remember asking one time in a group where that was brought up, it's like, hey, run's so stupid. That's not how you would run. I asked, really? Okay. Tell me, can you show me some examples of people who can run 3,000 miles per hour? How do they run? Oh, that's right. There are no people who run 3,000 miles per hour. So we have no idea what a guy who could run 3,000 miles per hour would actually run like. All we know is how us puny little regular humans run. But none of us can get up past, I don't know, what can a human being run? 12 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour? I have no idea, but it ain't 3,000. So who knows if there was actually a person who could run that fast? Maybe this is how they would run. Who knows, right? But yes, we all become, it's crazy how many scholarly experts have popped up online about what Greek armor would have looked like in the era of the Iliad. But whatever. It's just movies, man. It's just movies. Who cares? All right. Next up, we've got Zach Pasta Sauce Walters writes, dude, that I Play Rocky trailer made me cry, man. What a trailer. Listen, I cannot even begin to my favorite thing as a film fan is seeing something that I think is going to be really bad or I just dismiss. And then I actually get to see it or see something from it and go, well, that's way better than I thought it was going to be. Like, that is my favorite thing. Like, I love the fact that I thought, you guys have heard me say this one, so I'll just stick with it. Like the Harley Quinn animated show. I thought that looked like such garbage, and I thought it looked totally bad and completely unfunny, and I was excited about not watching it. But then I had a whole bunch of our viewers write in and say, John, I think you might like this Harley Quinn thing. I'm like, really? This thing sucks, or it looks like it sucks at any rate. No, I tried. So, okay, fine. So one night, Ann and I sit down and we put on Harley Quinn. Holy crap. Blew my expectations out of the water. Totally loved it. I had heard about I Play Rocky. I knew they were making it. I thought it was a bad idea. And then they showed us that trailer at CinemaCon, man. Totally made me do a 180. And I love that. I love that. I'm not one of these guys that I think something's going to suck and now I want it to suck so I can prove that my initial impressions were right. So I want this to suck. No, I'm actually totally the opposite. I get super stoked and excited when there's something that I'm totally convinced is going to be bad or pointless or useless, and I end up loving it. It is my favorite thing. And man, that I Play Rocky is right up there with that, Zach. Right up there with that. Okay. Let's see. Next up, World's Finest writes, John, do you think it's possible that if Endgame's encore is truly crucial, it won't be, to watch Doomsday, that means Doomsday and Secret Wars is a failure? What's your stance? Yes. Look, and Kevin Feige knows this better than anybody. I have always contended that one of the main reasons the MCU worked so well for so long is because Kevin Feige made it a very important point to make sure that every new MCU project that came out was a valid option for an entry point for a new fan, right? One of the reasons the MCU was so successful for so many years is because Kevin Feige made sure that every new movie coming out, yeah, there'd be stuff in it that could reference past movies and have nods at the cap or even cameos, but no new viewer would ever feel lost coming on board the MCU at any one of those projects. Now, they kind of lost their way a little bit on that, like once, WandaVision and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and like you go in and say, wait a minute, since when's Wanda a bad guy, right? Like that kind of changed, but it would be and I say this as a guy who loves Kevin Feige and loves Joe and Anthony Russo, it would be the height of stupidity and insanely disrespectful to the audience to say, hey guys, if you go to see Doomsday, but you didn't go to see our re-release of Endgame, you're not even going to get the movie. You're going to be totally lost. That would be a giant double effort to the fans and to the audience. So do I think they're going to put something really fun and enjoyable and completely relevant to Doomsday in the Avengers Endgame Encore? Yes. Do I think it's going to be something that if you don't go into theaters and see the Endgame Encore, that you're going to go into Doomsday and go, I have no idea what's going on? No, they're not going to do that. Like, that would be the height of stupidity. and the height of disrespect. And I don't think they're going to do either of those. So that's my guess. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Robbie Robbles writes, if James Gunn leaves WB, do you think the new head will finish out James's plan or make a new plan? I think they, in general, they don't want to reset and restart and reboot everything again. They definitely don't want to do that. What I think they will do is generally follow the blueprint while making adjustments. That's what I think they would do. That's what I would do. I would go and say, okay, there's already been hundreds of millions of dollars and tons of thousands of man hours put into planning this out. Let's generally follow it, but let's make some changes and adjustments as we need to. It won't follow it to the letter of the law, but I think they'll go in there and say, okay, we'll go in that general direction, but we'll mix some things up here as we go. Let's see. Next up, Corey Lou writes, Bubsy, what do you mean it got delayed again? Oh, I know I should know that reference and I don't. I feel bad that I feel like I'm supposed to know that reference and I simply don't. But anyway. All right. Next up. Thoughts on the new movie Motor City. You're talking about the one with Alan Ritchson? First of all, I love Alan. I think he's great. I've loved watching. He's got such a great screen presence. I love watching him on the screen. He's not a bad actor on top of all that. And I think he's fun. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't blown away by, if I'm thinking of the right movie, I wasn't blown away by the trailer. It looks pretty standard cookie cutter, but sometimes those can really surprise us. Look, let's put it this way. I like Alan enough that I'm definitely going to check it out, but I'm not going to pretend like I have super, super high expectations for it. Let's see. Next up, we've got Stephen Jenkins. No, sorry. We've got, who's next here? Hollow Lord writes, hey, John, you've seen Silo season 3 yet? It's really good. I have not. You know what? I haven't even seen season 2 yet. My wife has been on my case for a year now because she watched season 2 and she loves it. And I loved season 1. I really did. But I just never got around to season 2. My wife went ahead and watched season 2. She's like, you got to watch season 2 so we can watch season 1 together for like a year. And I've just never gotten around to it. And I need to. Again, no excuses because I love season 1. I just have, like, I've got so many shows that I've loved season 1 and just never got around to getting on board with season 2 yet. So I've definitely got to get on board with that. Hopefully I'll be able to do that soon. All right. Next up, now we have Stephen Jenkins who writes, you can look it up. James Gunn said Blue Beetle was in the new DCU when it was first came out. Not really, and not committed. Like I said earlier, they made allusions to it and mentioned it, but nothing ever materialized. Like, as we said earlier in the show, he made that comment like, oh, Blue Beetle's not the first project in the DCU, but he's going to be the first character of the DCU. And nobody really knew what that meant. Truly. That's why we've mentioned, yeah, it would make sense. James, I said it on yesterday's show. It makes sense. He's been talking about like Blue Beetle's going to be there, but he never came out and said, you know, Xolo's Blue Beetle is going to be blah. And again, well over a year passed, nothing materialized. And so, yeah, we've referenced the fact that he's mentioned something, but I mean, I just didn't think it was going to happen at this point. And again, I really like him, but I just don't know that this is bringing back another DCEU character is the right move. But we'll see. I'll be cheering for him for sure. All right. Next up. Let's see. Art House Cinema says, do I sense some contradiction? Upset about Blue Beetle, but is a fan of Deadpool / Wolverine and Doomsday bringing characters from failed universes. The X-Men universe was not by any stretch a failed universe. They had some bad projects. For sure. They had some bad projects. But X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, Logan, Are you kidding me? These aren't just beloved. They're like a couple of them, especially Logan is like considered an all-time great movie. I remember at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, for those of you who saw it and stuck around the theater, remember how they played that montage of all the original X-Men and when they shot the movie originally, all those movies originally, and they played the montage of it set to, I hope you had the time of your life. And they're showing all the original footage from the sets of X-Men 1 and X-Men 2. There were people in my theater that were literally getting weepy and getting like choked up. There were some really bad movies that came out of that experiment. Absolutely. I don't think X-Men 3 is as bad as most people do, but it's one of the negative ones for sure. The first Wolverine movie, X-Men Apocalypse. I know that movie has some fans. I didn't like it for sure. Absolutely. But I think you are extremely disconnected if you don't understand that for a lot of people, that franchise overall was completely beloved. And Logan is a top 3 greatest comic book movie of all time. So trying to compare, the DCEU to something that so many of us grew up with the original X-Men and still like adhere to, even though we know some of the movies in it were really bad, 100%. But trying to compare those two, I think is, let's just say, folly. It's pretty silly. It's a silly comparison. Because those are two, because you're talking about like a guy playing Wolverine who's played the role for 20 years, like 20 years, 30 years, anyway, stuff like that. So to put it kindly, I think that is a silly comparison, but hey, you feel about it however that's the beautiful thing about movies, man. They hit us as art. We feel differently about it. And if you feel differently about it, not trying to discredit it, but you're asking me, you took the proactive step to ask me. So I'm going to give you my answer. And my answer is, I think that's a pretty silly comparison. All right. Mr. I writes, I always thought Xolo as Blue Beetle in the DCU would work due to zero DCEU connections in the movie. Only a mention of Metropolis and Batman as a fascist. But like I said during the show, even that's not a connection to the DCEU. Mentioning Metropolis or Gotham and mentioning Batman, all that tells us is that he's in an DC universe. He's in a DC universe. That's all it tells us. It doesn't tell us that he's in Ben Affleck's DC universe. It doesn't tell us he's in, Christopher Reeve's DC universe. It doesn't tell us he's in Michael Keaton's DC universe. All mentioning Batman and Metropolis or Gotham, all that does is say he's in some form of a DC universe. Not necessarily DCEU, not necessarily DCU, right? So that's one of the advantages it has going for it. The other advantage, like I think Sean very wisely brought up, is the fact that it was such a box office bomb and nobody went to go see it. That kind of plays in its favor a little bit. So nobody remembers him in the DCU anyway, or the DCEU anyway. Again, I think it's a mistake to bring over more failed baggage from the DCEU because they've already done it once with Peacemaker characters. Fine, that's the exception. But you can't keep doing it, I don't think. But again, I love Xolo in the role. I think he's very good as Blue Beetle, and maybe they can make it work. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm just being honest, and I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't think it's the wisest move, but it can absolutely work, and here's hoping that it will. All right. Let's see. Next up, Lone Wolf writes, my issue with Metacritic is that the scores are weighted. Listen, I'm very, very well read in how the Rotten Tomatoes system works. I must confess, I'm not as well read into exactly the details of how Metacritic works. But I do appreciate the fact that if we go over, we can just simply see that it just straight up says, let me get up to the top here. It just simply says, hey, when we average all the numbers, it averages out to 88. 49 liked it. 4 of them mixed. zero negative. Like, so I appreciate, again, I'm not exactly sure how they do all their final calculations, but I do at least appreciate that they kind of work those numbers in so we can kind of get a clear sense of what they are. But again, I'm not refuting your issue with it because you might be 100% right. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying when I look at it at face value, it tends to work pretty well, but I'm more of a Rotten Tomatoes system. I prefer that system a little bit more than Metacritic's, but you could be 100% right, Lone Wolf. All right. Let's see. Trevor Hansel writes, The Iliad, when? I mean, that depends on what you're asking. Are you asking when does the Iliad happen? The Iliad, let's put it this way. Troy is basically the Iliad, right? The Troy is the Iliad. That's Troy. Then the Odyssey is what happens afterwards. You know, what happens after the fall of Troy. Now, if you're asking, though, when are we getting an Iliad movie? Well, we kind of did in Troy. So maybe if this is a big hit, if Odyssey is a big hit, maybe they go back and take another swing at doing a version of the Iliad. Let's see. Next up, Mark Branson Thurston writes, John, stellar installment today. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. That's kind of you to say. Is there a possibility, possibility that you would do a what other people think video for the Odyssey like you did for the Punisher? Maybe. You know what's funny? I did that what other people think video because a few people suggested I do it and I liked doing it and I thought it was fun and a lot of people watched it like for what it was. And I've been thinking I need to do another one. I just need to find the right thing to do it for. I don't know if doing it for the Odyssey is a good one to do that for because it appears that everybody loves it. So I don't know how interesting it is if generally speaking, everybody has the same opinion. Everybody thinks it's great. I don't know if that makes for an interesting one, but I do want to do more. Like I said, I did that one with the Punisher kind of as a test. The test was very successful. So I am definitely going to do more what other people think videos. And, you know what? I'll try to make sure I get one done by the end of next week, but I don't know that it'll be for the Odyssey because we'll have my out of theater reaction for the Odyssey on tomorrow night. And we'll have my review for the Odyssey on Friday. And then probably Sunday, we'll probably do an open spoiler discussion. Maybe yes, maybe no, because there's World Cup final, House of the Dragon, and my Dungeons and Dragons game. So maybe Monday night I might do an open spoiler discussion. So I don't know if there would be a need to do a what other people think video about the Odyssey, but it's a great question. And all right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you guys, the thousands of you who joined us in the live chat today. It was a lot of fun following along your conversations and the little bits of information you guys will put in there too. Makes it a very collaborative show. Thank you guys so much for that. Also, big thank you to all of you guys who sent in the super chats. Number one, because you gave us interesting opinions and thoughts and things to talk about. And you also supported the channel as you did it and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. All right, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. Listen, special guest on the show tomorrow that I'm really excited. One of my favorite guys in the YouTube movie space, Ryan Airy from Screen Crush is going to be on tomorrow. I love their videos. I particularly love his as well. So he's going to be on the show tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. And we hope many of you guys will be back to join us for that. So that'll do it for me for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.